most distressing development from the Rajouri sector of Jammu and Kashmir. An anti-terror operation in the area has resulted in the death of 5 Indian Army Para-Special Forces commandos, with 1 person still critically injured and fighting for his life in hospital. This took place early this morning in Rajouri's Kandi area. Special Forces jawans were conducting an anti-terror operation after information of the presence of terrorists in the forested terrain there. A search operation established contact with a group of terrorists who were hiding inside a cave feature. Well, during this anti-terror operation, the group of terrorists managed to trigger an explosive device in retaliation to firing by our Special Forces commandos. 5 commandos tragically were killed in action, while 4 more soldiers have sustained injuries and have been airlifted to the nearest hospital for treatment. There's 1 officer among the injured.
Very unfortunate. We are taking casualties. This is, I think, 3rd or 4th major incident casualty. I think we need to review our strategy, our deployment, our counter-terrorist grid in Rajouri, in the whole of Jammu region, but particularly in the Rajouri Poonch. It is definitely a difficult area, difficult terrain, thick forest, mountain, caves and all. But I think the enemy is taking advantage of certain factors and trying, if you see the events of last 2 years, trying to disturb increasingly Jammu region. It has suffered setback in Kashmir Valley. It tried to change its strategy in Kashmir after suffering casualties in the Operation All Out, then came out with a strategy of the targeted killings, which also has been largely controlled.
मैं ये समझता हूँ ये बौखलाहट है पाकिस्तान की, और जिस तरीके से G20 की मीटिंग इस बार पहली बार 20 कंट्री का बड़े-बड़े मुल्क, ब्रिटेन हो, यूके हो, जापान हो, जर्मनी हो, उनके कंट्री जब यहाँ आते हैं, सऊदी अरबिया हो, ये मुझे लगता है उनको रास नहीं आता है. उनको लगता है कि हम लोग कैसे खून खराबा यहाँ कश्मीर को खून खराबा देखना चाहते हैं, लेकिन कश्मीर का अवाम यहाँ पे अमन चाहता है, पीस चाहता है, और इसीलिए मेरी मोहब्बाना गुजारिश है सबसे कि यहाँ हमें अमन से जीने दीजिए.
I want to go across to India today. Sunilji Bhatt, who's live with me from the Rajouri sector near Jammu. He's been reporting on this very troubling story. Sunil, 5 Special Forces commandos, being killed in action is, is an unthinkable loss for the Indian Army. What more are you hearing? There are several others who are injured and have been taken away to the hospital, but the operation is still currently on, Sunil.
Absolutely, Shiv. It's a tragic news and huge loss for the nation. And Shiv, right since that dastardly terror attack took place in Poonch last month, when an army vehicle was targeted by the terrorists, a massive cordon and search operation was on in the twin border districts of Rajouri and Poonch. And this morning, this news came in that the security forces have been able to establish contact with a group of terrorists who are hiding inside a cave in Kandi forest belt of Rajouri district. But later on, there was a tragic news that came in that 2 army personnel attained martyrdom in that encounter that took place, and 4 others sustained injuries, and they were airlifted and taken to Northern Command Hospital in Udhampur. Now, Army has issued a statement and said that 3 more Army personnel have succumbed to their injuries. So total 5 Army personnel have attained martyrdom. And Shiv, if we see the pattern in the last 2-3 years, there have been many terror attacks in the twin border districts of Rajouri and Poonch. And in most of the cases, the terrorists have managed to give a slip to the security forces. They have managed to flee from the spot, whether it was in October 21 or recently in Dhangri in Rajouri, or in the Poonch terror attack that took place last month. So the security forces are working in close coordination, whether it's the Indian Army, Jammu and Kashmir Police or the CRPF. A massive search operation is on, and we are learning from our sources that reinforcements are being sent to the Kandi belt of Rajouri district. But Shiv, this is not an easy area to operate in. You have been to this particular region and you know how difficult the terrain is. This entire region is surrounded by dense dense forest, there are huge mountains, so it's a very challenging task for the security forces to neutralize the terrorists in this particular area. And what is compounding problems for the security forces is the inclement weather. In the last 2-3 days, it has been raining here in Jammu and Kashmir, so it is making matters difficult for the security forces. And recently, Shiv, more than 100 people were apprehended by the police here in both Rajouri as well as Poonch districts. They were questioned by the cops, and one of them admitted that he had provided shelter to those terrorists. He had provided logistics support. So clearly there are a few local overground workers of terrorists who are familiar with the terrain. They are providing support to these terrorists, and that is why they are managing to hide themselves in the forest belt. So it's a mammoth task for the security forces as far as this entire anti-terror operation is concerned.
Sunil, thanks very much for joining us with that ground report. Just to tell our viewers that this is difficult terrain. They are forested mountains. The weather is not always good. It's extremely close to the line of control, which is why it continues to be vulnerable. The Poonch Rajouri axis just north of Jammu is practically on the line of control, and that's the reason why terrorists are able to infiltrate across the line of control, with not a great degree of difficulty, and able to launch attacks immediately there, because that's also an area where a lot of Indian Army patrolling takes place. So this is a place where infiltrations have taken place many times in the past, but the Rajouri sector has seen a handful of attacks in the last few weeks, suggesting that there is a pattern, or there is a larger effort to escalate tensions and violence in that area. 5 soldiers were killed in their truck a couple of weeks ago in the Poonch area, also near Rajouri, and now 5 special forces soldiers, not regular infantry, but special forces soldiers, have been killed in action in an encounter in the Kandi forest area of Rajouri sector. The reason why I am continuously stressing on special forces is because special forces operate differently. Their tactics are different. They operate with a greater degree of stealth. That they are called in means that it is a kind of last-ditch effort to flush out the terrorists, because all other forces have possibly decided that only the special forces can effect a successful execution of the operation, and therefore for 5 special forces men to be cut down during their operation, during their this action in Rajouri sector, is a very, very troubling development. The last time the Indian Army Special Forces suffered such grievous losses was in April 2020. That was in an operation in the Cordon sector of North Kashmir, in which 5 Indian Army Para-Special Forces commandos were similarly killed in action while chasing terrorists. This time as well, five commandos from a single Para-Special Forces unit have lost their lives in an operation. We understand that at least 2 more persons, including 1 officer, are currently fighting for their lives at the command hospital in Udhampur, which is the headquarters of the Indian Army's Northern Army Command. Javant is going to be with us in just a moment to get us a bigger perspective on what the implications of this operation are, the terrible losses that have been inflicted, and how the Indian Army might actually respond. For any of our viewers who might be concerned about the visuals that we're showing, we assure you these are visuals from earlier. These are deferred. None of these images are live. We will not be revealing any sensitive information, including locations or manpower deployed in the area, or any of the other such pieces of information that might be taken advantage of. India Today happens to be the only responsible channel that does not report any information or facts during a live operation, and that is what is taking place at this point of time. We're still waiting for Gaurav Sawant, who's going to be joining us in just a moment, because we need that perspective from him on how the Indian Army might actually respond. There have been 4 attacks in the Rajouri sector already this year, including one in which an IED was used to ambush an army truck in the Poonch Rajouri axis, in which 5 soldiers were killed. But today's becomes inestimably bigger, because 5 special forces soldiers have lost their lives and have been killed in action in this encounter.